Oh, so pretty. I'm an angel. Can you see? I am illuminated. So every day I've been having this conversation with myself about I need to start marking time because it's passing really, really quickly. And also, writing, because I wanted to create this video log for both myself, because I imagine if I got to watch this in the future, it would be more interesting because I could see myself, right? And you could see me at some point in the future, just to see, what we're like. I think I was thinking about, what I keep talking about, recording the inner journey more than the external journey, and that I think the power behind that, and I think that's why storytelling lasts over eons of time, is that that's what we have in common, right? The things in our life change, the circumstances, the events, the set to the play in which we are acting upon. But the internal journey, the emotional journey, the mental processing journey, I think that's what we share across time, and I think that becomes what connects us to each other and to our ancestors and to our history. And, one of the power of doing journaling or writing letters or trying to do this, I don't know if there'll be electricity in the future to watch it or the technology, but, the written word is awesome because it travels across time. The ancients put their wisdom in stone. I will not be doing that. How we interpret what they were trying to share with us or what they were trying to do. So often it colors, through our own mind. But I bring that up because I've been thinking, like, how am I going to mark time, right? What am I going to do to acknowledge days are passing? Just as a way, to kind of keep myself organized. And I remember, in archaeology, it used to be men that always did all the study, and then Margaret Mead came and brought a whole new perspective, but from a different point of view. She really started to talk about the relationships, not the objects, because men and women have very different points of interest. But my favorite story was the guys found a stick with 30 chinks in it, and they're like, I have no idea what this could be for. And women are like, doesn't matter where you are in time, we all have something in common, or at one point did, the passing of a cycle across a 28 to 30 something, day period of time. And it makes sense. If I was in a world that I had to improvise or be outside and active, I would want to know, when to expect my biology. That makes perfect sense. And so marking time is important. The seasons are important, the cyclical nature, all of that stuff, we lost when we went inside and we turned on the lights and we let everything else tell us what the time and the season and what was valuable. But, having lived in nature now for so long, I love nature showing me year after year, the order of the flowers, and although the weather keeps changing, but that's a whole different story. So anyways, today I wanted to, I promised you at some point I need to go, make everybody help talk to us on camera so we don't get tired of looking just at me. There are other people here for now, but one of the things I did, and the reason why, I'm thinking about this stuff is I have, this is my daily stuff, right? I have my yearly journal. I have my to-do list. I have my write about every thought and feeling. And then I have this bigger notebook, which I've been compiling, the stuff that's important to me that I want to take forward into the future. So I've been trying to make a list and consolidate, random pieces of wisdom. Because one of the things that has been on the agenda is the sun goes boom And very few people survive. And humanity, I believe, will survive. But it really got me thinking about knowledge and what our legacy is and what we want to share. And it isn't that we have peanut butter and jelly. It isn't even this kind of stuff. You know, if I wanted to be practical, I came up with an idea a long time ago that, of course, I never followed through on, called the Book of Wisdom, because I thought, how awesome would it be to have a book passed down from the women in my family of their best wisdom, of their best stories, of their personal reflections, and just to have that continuously passed down. And one of the things I never got to, I got this little, can you see this? This little tiny leather-bound notebook, because I thought if I ever have to walk away, I need something tiny. So this was going to be my tiny book of wisdom. But it's been, you know, I've been really sad. I wanted a bigger one. I wanted a bigger one that I, even if I couldn't pass it down to daughters, because I don't have a daughter, I wanted to be able to pass it to maybe a girl that didn't have a mother, because in the same way, I think something would be awesome for men to share with their sons or boys, just pieces of ourselves and things we learned along the way, and how it wasn't that we just marked time, but that we shared the essences of who we were and what was important to us. I think that would have been awesome. And, you know, when I learned about this idea that the sun might go boom and everything would be lost, I started looking at all my stuff in a very different way. Because those things that, you know, for those of us who move a lot, pack up and take with us, you know, from place to place to place for someday and something. For those, you know, I had a huge book collection before I shrunk down into this tiny life. And I still have a ton of stuff. And I'm still thinking, what happens if I have to just walk out? How little bit I can take with me. But what if none of that even survives, right? We have this, we all have this emotional attachment to some of our history. And so that got me thinking, you know, how could I shrink it down? Because the object, I think, is less important than the emotional connection. Because I think if I could have one thing from my ancestors, it would be to know who they were, not what they touched, what they held on to. And, you know, the beauty of a ring or a necklace or things like that is, I think it connects us to their idea, to the memory, some way, but they're in our DNA, they're in our blood, they're in our cells. And I would love the ability to connect with them in a personal way. And so I've been thinking a lot about how that's going to end with me. I don't have kids. I don't have anybody that I'm connected to. And, you know, as much as I love the dogs, they're not going to be, you know, it's not the same. It's not the same as children. You know, children hold our history in their DNA. I know time's passing. This is just a quick story because, again, if the sun really does go boom, it won't mean anything. But I found out, a year and a half ago that on my mother's side, the maternal side, I have ancestors that came over on the second or third ship to America from England. And I was really proud of that. I thought, wow, you know, I have really a pioneering spirit in my record, in my family history. And then I read somewhere that the people who came over originally on the first ships were middle class and lazy and refused to work. Like, they came over and they refused to farm or feed themselves. And they would have died if the Native Americans hadn't fed them. And I was horrified to think my ancestors would be so weak and pathetic that they would venture across the sea into an unknown land and not make one single plan for food and shelter. There's a big fly in here. So So when I say that, there's a magic about connecting with our legacy and our ancestors. But I remember reading a story about a guy who found out he came from a family line of psychopaths. I mean, what do you do with that? So there is a caveat to all this. But I have been thinking a lot about, I can't carry all this stuff with me. And this is not, the camera won't go with me. I will carry the SD card with me. But I'm not taking, if I leave, I'm not taking any technology with me. And I'm excited about that. I got to be honest. We lived in a world that became, even if we didn't want to, we had to use technology. We became tracked. We became invaded. We became manipulated. I love being cut off, but I can't function in the world. And one of the things I am most looking forward to in this post-technical world, I believe, is to be able to find my own rhythm again, because I never fit into the world as it was. So I'm trying to plant that seed as a hopeful seed about who am I in this new world. But in the meantime, this is all I can muster for the day. I talked to the people here about, can we do something on camera? And I have so much stuff I need to get done. It's hard for me just to take this little break moment. But if you are from the future and you're watching this, we tracked our days once upon a time in calendars, and I like to put, right now, I'm not going to show you what I wrote. I'll show you July. It's empty. I have no idea what I'll be writing because all the usual stuff is going away, and we are entering a brand new world. And I am getting a tiny little seed of hope. People live like this forever. That's one of the reasons I was talking about, ancestry and how people lived. We've always survived. And so just a tiny little seed of hope got planted with all the grief and all the sadness. And I was thinking, one more thing. My never-ending talking. Mostly, I think I do this so I can avoid having to go. I'm so tired. That, I was thinking about all, my ancestors made no plan and no preparation for a future that was 100% uncertain. I live in a time where there's thousands, maybe millions of us planning and anticipating a future in which we have bought stuff and we've developed skills and we've been planning and talking about. And I've been practicing this kind of living for over 10 years. And even though I'm in the middle of it, there's still a shock and awe factor. But I'm wondering, one of the questions I'm asking myself, was it a good idea, or should I have just lived my life and not sort of put a lot of it on hold, waiting for a future that I had no control over? Did I miss the window? Did I put too much energy into grieving the loss of a future I never knew if it would be? So was that wasted time trying to plan and prepare for something that might never have happened, that was fearful and scary? Did I put myself through all this? Was it good? Am I more prepared? Am I going to be more prepared? Knowing what I know about myself and watching all these other people and history and time, all the plans in the world won't keep you safe or keep you alive. I know that. But I do know that how we move through it, how our nervous system responds to all of this, is something that you can plan for. And I think it's a positive People who go to war, people who are in high stress or volatile kind of environments, they have to train their nervous system the same way we train muscles. And I think part of what I needed to do to make peace with all of this isn't to have pretended it wasn't going to happen, but was to look at it in my imagination, to feel it and to process it, because I believe it's allowing me to move through it more quickly. I think in the same way, I will give you this last little story. The first time, because in our world, we don't stay married forever, right? So in our first relationship, when we're a teenager, we fall in love, and that ends, and we think we're going to die, and the world is over, and it's the most horrific thing that we've ever experienced, and you just have no idea how horrible it is. And then I would laugh, right? Because, for the next few relationships, they were pretty upsetting. Good goodness. At this point, it's like, oh, okay. And it's not that I don't have an emotional reaction to it. It's the same thing when one of my animals dies. It's not that I don't have an emotional reaction, but it's not the first time, because I grieved. I put myself through the process, and I know that there's an ending to it. And in the same way I was talking about the other day, this uncertainty is wildly stressful because there's no completion point. There's nothing that we know, like the lights are going to come back on in 3 months, and so I just have to suck up. And what I would imagine is going to happen, there's going to be a lot of false hope and a lot of false starts and a lot of hope that gets dashed and crashed and manipulation and con jobs. I think a lot of that stuff is coming. I think the resiliency that I feel is that I've had so much agitation and frustration and disappointment and struggle. Even though the uncertainty is never going to end, my capacity to tolerate it will end. In the same way, my capacity to sit in my grief or depression will end. Now that I say that out loud, I've had all of these things happen. By not avoiding them, but by trusting that I will move through them. They're not comfortable. I can't, find a way through them that doesn't not feel at all horrible. But I can trust that the emotion, the negative and the struggle and the pain will end at some point. The emotional component will end when I don't try to push it away. My environment may not change. My circumstances might not change. But I have always found a way to make peace and make sense and take the lesson and keep going. And so I think that all of our experiences, real or imagined, are important and powerful. And I do believe that as I talk about all this, that everything I've put myself through intentionally anticipating terrible things happening, I think it's made me stronger. I had a stretch, actually pretty much up to this point, of 3 years where I didn't have any hope, and I was not going to see an end to it. And I was really... I did have a break and all that. I was at a point where I didn't think I could go on because I could not have one more bad thing happen. It was relentless. Every day it was something bad. And then it was 10 times, a day. And then at some point I did get a break. And I kept thinking, that this experience is not about the bad things that are happening to me. It's stretching my capacity to tolerate it. As I say that, I'm horrified to think that's maybe now, that it will be a long, long, intolerable period, but that even when it feels unsustainable and that it's never going to end, there is always an end. So I think that's my takeaway. I really feel like that period of my time was such a nightmare. And my fear is that we're in that period of time, everybody, but maybe I will do better because I've already practiced that unbearable uncertainty and horribleness for such a long time that I don't think I will ever allow myself to fall that far back. And I think that comes from experience. I think that comes from practice. So, yeah, I think it's good to plan ahead. You know, not to the exclusion of everyone and everything. You know, living in a cave for 50 years because you think something might happen someday. But I have gotten so much out of this life, I would still do it. I would make different decisions, but I would still do it. So, all right, that's me 20 minutes later avoiding the nightmare that lies in front of me today. But the good news is the sun is shining. Can you see? It's nice and bright outside. Here we go. And you can see I'm in a little bit better mood than I have been the last few days. Tiny seed of hope got planted today, and I feel really good about that. See you next time.